Alright, so for those of you just tuning in, my name is Resins22, and welcome back to part 2 of my Let's Play of Apollo Justice Ace Attorney. Definitely make sure to check the video description below for the previous part, and make sure to watch that first. And also, welcome to my channel. I do plenty of content for Age of Empires 2, miscellaneous strategy games, Nintendo games, and Ace Attorney is by far one of my favorite franchises of all time. Thank you so much in advance for supporting the channel by leaving a like and a comment, as it helps motivate me to produce more AoE content, and it also grows the AoE community and my channel as well. And, of course, for those of you who don't skip ads, also appreciate it. But without further ado, let's jump straight into part 2. In part 1, we began the first case, and now it is time for the prosecution to call their decisive witness. I do want to say one quick thing to the Twitch chat, is that not all defendants in every Ace Attorney game, and again, if you were keeping this spoiler free, so no spoilers under any circumstances, but I do want to remind the people watching that not all defendants that you defend in an Ace Attorney game are actually innocent. Some of them end up being guilty, but it's your job as a defense attorney to defend them anyway. Or sometimes they are let off the hook, but are guilty of some degree of crime. So it's never really clear cut. So don't be so quick to judge every single witness and everything and character, as we haven't seen them all yet. So at this point, we have no idea who the murderer is. But for those of you who honestly have not played this game before, I would love for you to join me on this journey and try and solve this crime with me. The answer is simple. The answer is simple, Your Honor. The prosecution has a decisive witness. You're as good as they say you are. So someone else was in the room the night of the crime? That must mean they witnessed the crime. Everything up till now has been a warm-up, Justice. Are you ready? Very well. The prosecution may call its first witness to the stand. It is hard to do a voice for this character. And yes, as McKay says, break's over, everybody. Please, let's keep it on topic and go back to talking about literally anything else. The witness will state her name and profession. Hold on just a moment. Where is the witness? I surmise that she has been frightened by the defense's demonic-looking horns. You get him, Winston. Damn, he's good. He's actually not that good. He's a pretty weak prosecutor. Let's be honest. So I used a little hair gel. Relax, people. Have no fear. If any horns point in your direction, this court will cut them off. You are sure? I swear it on my gavel. Please, come out. Isn't violence against hair a crime, Your Honor? Well, if you are sure it is okay. Now the prosecution... Wait a minute! Would the prosecution care to explain the witness's, paraphernalia? Yes. She is a professional, Your Honor. These are merely the tools of her trade. And that would be? My name is Olga Orly. I am employed as waitress in Borscht Club. She's really hard to voice for. I am employed as waitress in Borscht Club restaurant, especially because she doesn't speak in proper senses. Then why the camera? Of course, it is my pride to serve borscht that is naming restaurant. But I also perform, how it is said, other service? I take it one of these other services is taking the customer's pictures? Like, for example, this one. And the friction music picks up. That's a damning picture. That proves that Mr. Wright was at the scene of the crime definitively. Because before this, we only have this crime photo, which shows the wine bottle, and it shows Shotty Smith, the victim, and we know that Mr. Wright had upside-down fingerprints on this bottle of wine, which was the murder weapon in this case, but we had no definitive proof that Mr. Wright was actually there. But now we do. That's the defendant. Indeed. On the night of the murder, man in white hat is one who has gone kaput. Mate dude says, that's not the table. You're right, that's not the table. That's actually, oh, I can't show you right now. That's the other side, that's the left side of the room, by the way. So, but yes. They will explain why there is snow, Gabriel Gibby, but you are good. You are very, very good for keeping an eye on these things. Mildly irritated Wombat asks, where are the cards? That could be hours before the crime. Also a very good thought. I like where all your minds are at. Thank you for trying to solve the crime alongside with me. It's much more fun that way. And I hope that someone does something with the thing in the bottom right that I have here. Literally everybody like donated and renewed their sub like right at the start, so it would be nice if that thing moves at any point, but it's all good. Indeed, that is the victim. Order! Order! This is quite a piece of evidence to casually drop into our laps. It is the same way as I drop cold bowls of borscht on laps of customers. Casually. I do that too, by the way. Whenever someone comes over to my house, I love dropping cold bowls of borscht on their laps. Casually. Thank you so much, Faust, for resubscribing for 13 months, and Drunkle Zon for resubscribing to Twitch Prime for 2 months. For those of you who have Amazon Prime, you can sub to me for free, and I really appreciate it. Is it Twitch Prime or is it Twitch Prime? There we go. Then the court will casually accept this new evidence. Everything here in Ace Attorney is casual, as you can tell by the music. Okay, so we take a look at this photograph. I'm just going to show this off to you so that you all can have your own little theories. But yes, there is snow in the club, which is weird. And there are a lot of other things in that photo which are weird. And I'll let you all figure that out. But again, if you play this game, don't spoil anything, or you're going to get the ban hammer straight from the gavel. Now witness, where were you at the time of the murder? I was in room. The hideout, we call it. Excuse me? The hideout? It is room where famous gangster Bad Guy was arrested. Is room where murder took place. What? Your look of utter surprise. It is lovely. Thank you, Homicidal Bear, for following. You not following me before? Appreciate it. I will post by courtroom door later for you. Ah, such a sick burn. Dada, photos will be numbered, and you'll write which ones you want copy of. So there were 3 people in the room at the time of the crime. Anything in red, they do this earlier on in the early cases, is important information. The victim, Shotty Smith, Mr. Wright, and Olga Orly are witness. And if Mr. Wright isn't the killer, doesn't necessarily mean he wasn't the killer, as there have been cases where the defendant is guilty, so we'll have to see. At least, Phoenix Wright's conduct so far has been really sketchy. Pleading silent is really sketchy. Thank you, QQ Crybaby, for following. I appreciate it. Y'all can spread it out across the stream if you so desire, but appreciate it. One of the streams will claim him. And if Mr. Wright isn't the killer, that means gavel time. Very well. Witness, you will testify to the court about the night's events. That fateful night. That night, customer asked me to deal cards for game. It was cold. Both players played with hats on, da. The victim. He plays whole time with his hand on locket at his neck. What is so good about these games is the way they use the witnesses' animations to kind of give you hints as to various miscellaneous information. The victim. He plays the whole time with his hand on his locket at his neck. Then, last hand is done, but something terrible has happened, da. That man flew at the victim and is strangling him to death. John Fisk says, objection. Can't shuffle cards wearing mittens. Incidentally, who won the game? Isn't it obvious? The winner was the victim, Mr. Smith. Objection! That's ridiculous! Because Mr. Wright can't lose! Justice? Maybe you can come up with a more legitimate objection. But he hadn't lost in 7 years! Take it from me, kid. It happens. I didn't lose the case my first 7 years as prosecutor either. Incidentally, I have some evidence here. This is also a very notable picture. These are the poker chips as they lay the very moment of the crime. The hand and chips on this side belong to the defendant, Mr. Wright. Those on the far side belong to the victim, Mr. Smith. Chips, you say? Da. I mean, yes. Imagine that poker is war. Your hand is your army, and the chips are the spoils. I know that. After all, in my youth, I was known as the poker head of courtroom number 3. I think he means poker face. Looking at this picture, it does seem that most of the chips are on the victim's side of the table. Very well. The defense may cross-examine the witness. And now we're on to testimony number 2, that fateful night, with Olga Orly. And, in case the game crashes, save state 0. That night, customer asked me to deal cards for game. Let's see. It was cold. Both players played with hats on, da? Well, if we, check this photo, they are both wearing hats. So that's not that. If you're curious why the snow's there, I will press this statement for just for you, Gabriel. It's already April. How could it be cold? At Borscht Bull Club, we have pride on authentic rustic Russian restaurant theme. Outside it is city in spring, but inside it is always as cold as Mother Russia. No way am I going there. When it comes to hot borscht, cold is best seasoning, da? The victim. He plays whole time with his hand on locket at his neck. Oh, her body language tells me that this is perhaps something suspicious, but I think she already said a contradiction, right? Then, last hand is done, but something terrible has happened, da? That man flew at the victim and is strangling him to death. Aha! Did anyone in the Twitch chat catch that contradiction? Messenger says, wait, this photo, everything is nicely arranged, but in the very first photo, everything is thrown around, cards on the ground and such. Yeah, the photos, some of the photos may have been taken at different times. Okay, we check this. Well, see, here's the thing. In this case, though, they actually were all taken at the same time. You can actually see the corner of the cards that were laying on the floor. This was actually taken at the same time as This photo, I believe, yes. It's just the angle of it doesn't show the cards on the floor, so... glad you're paying attention, though, Destinbeer. Definitely. I wonder if anyone caught this contradiction. Mate Dude said strangle? Nailed it. Screwnut says Olga's hot? Then you're gonna present Smith's autopsy report. Objection! Oh, really? Strangled, you say? That's odd. Da. Normal customers only choke on borscht. That's a little concerning, but not a public health expert, nor do I run a restaurant. No, I mean the victim. No, I mean this report shows the victim died of a blow to the head. Miss Orly, really now? Did you witness the crime? Eek! Nice animation. Looking at the picture, it doesn't seem like he was hit. But he's still wearing his hat and everything. Yet, it is a fact that he was hit, Your Honor. Here's a photo we took of the victim with his hat off during our investigation. Well, that's quite shocking, isn't it? Just so you all get a... Oh, we'll submit it to me in a second. This head certainly was hit. There we go. Clearly tell. Head hit. But, I have seen it happen. So there we go. Here's another interesting piece of evidence for those of you in chat to ponder. Interesting, interesting. But, I have seen it happen. The defendant, he lunged at the victim. His neck. Oh, really, Miss Orly? I think I've caught you in your own lie this time. Justice. I admire your enthusiasm, but perhaps you should think this through once more. What do you mean? I found a contradiction. There's one thing in her testimony that troubles me. Very well. It seems we should continue the cross-examination. There's such a thing as thinking too much. This horse is dead. Let's stop beating it. There's such a thing as thinking aloud too much, too. That night, customer asked me to deal cards for game. Did she add a new statement to her testimony? It was cold. Both players played with hats on. Do I have any new information here? The victim, he played the whole time with his hand on the locket at his neck. That appears to be a locket. It's difficult to tell from this picture. As it could be concealed by his jacket, but... Whoa! Actually, he's... Aha! It's all coming back to me now. It's been 11 years, but, aha! The locket. Who got that? Just says, is there a locket on the pics? There are in the earlier pictures, but not in the picture that we just saw. Oh, really, Miss O'Reilly? Love it, Age of Empires. Which is, again, such a clever name. Objection's victim's beard's really cool. Objection! You know, there was one curious partner testimony, just like Mr. Gavin said. But what does it mean? Mr. Justice, would you care to explain what it is that you're so intensely thinking about? Recall the testimony, Your Honor. The victim played with his hand on locket at his neck, I believe she said. I hope you aren't about to raise an objection to the witness's grammar. You get him, Payne! You get him! He's one of my favorite prosecutors. He's not my favorite prosecutor, but... yeah, Mr. Payne's pretty good. No. But look at this photograph. Do you see a locket on the victim's neck? Oh, I love the objection theme. Well done, Justice. I'm impressed. Feels good to be impressed, man. Kristoph Gavin, one of the most respected defense attorneys in this time period of this game. Our boss. Nice. I knew you'd be able to handle this. I'll do another take on that one, because he is legitimately proud of you. I knew you'd be able to handle this. But what does it mean? If we are to believe this witness's testimony as is, then the locket disappeared following the victim's death. Lockets don't just disappear, Your Honor. It's quite simple when you think about it. If the locket is gone, someone must have taken it off, no? Taken it off? Wait, you don't mean... The defendant wasn't strangling the victim at all. He was taking off his locket. Wouldn't that explain it? Ah! Defendant! What do you have to say about this? Say... Yes? I just noticed this, but... You have something hanging around your neck, don't you? Dun dun dun. Rovsey asks, wasn't Phoenix Wright wearing a locket earlier in the trial? Bingo! Nailed it. Nailed it, nailed it, nailed it. Screwnote says, I love Resonance's voices for Payne. Makes him sound like... Thank you, thank you. I love my Winston Payne voice too. I only wish that... Oh, by the way, thank you so much, Hargoblarg, for following. Really appreciate it. I only wish that it was easier for me to actually voice act these characters, as I don't know the lines of dialogue prior, and it just kind of comes up, but I like the Payne voice a lot. Glad you like it too. Oh, you mean this? Oh, come on, could you be any more sketchy? You and your grape juice that you drink all the time. Yes, it's a locket, with a photograph inside. A photo of my daughter. Come again? Mr. Wright, you have a daughter? We confirmed it at the time of the arrest. The picture in the locket is indeed Mr. Wright's daughter. That reaction, though. So Mr. Wright has a locket, too? Why don't I buy that this is just a coincidence? Well now, if the results of this poker game led to the murder, perhaps we should hear more about the outcome of the game. Further testimony won't really be necessary. It's clear that the defendant lost. Badly. Miss Orly, you will testify to the court about the game played between the victim and the defendant. Duh. Serious competition. The game began with 3,500 points in chips for each man. House chips come in two sizes, small and large. The one who was winning, it was victim. For last hand, defendant play with all chips on table and lose. The moment loss was decided, defendant grabs bottle from table and... Indeed, looking at this picture, it does seem to be a one-sided game. As the court knows, poker was the defendant's life. Failure must have been a bitter pill to swallow. All of Winston Payne's burns in this case are so much better the more you know about Ace Attorney, but I'm glad that most of you watching don't know about Ace Attorney, so that way there are no spoilers for anybody. But this is still great. Because, yeah. Oh, man. For context purposes, Winston Payne lost to Phoenix Wright in a previous case before, and is still awfully bitter about it, so he likes to rub it in. But his hair has since massively improved. He's doing just fine. Ah, how many times have I heard these words? I done it in a fit of anger, Your Honor, and now I regret what I had done. A common tale, but true. He thinks the judge watches too many old court movies. Perseus asks, how long will you be streaming today, Rez? I'm gonna finish this case. Corbett gas. I don't want my video to get demonetized. I'm paranoid now. This has got to hit at least 1,000 views in a week. So I need everyone's help, support, likes, comments, and views. So, but yeah, everybody does, and that's what makes the game so good. Mr. Wright said he hasn't lost in 7 years, so this testimony must be wrong. Or Mr. Wright's lying. Either or. Whatever you want to believe, Apollo. Sure. What's with people? It's like a running gag in Ace Attorney. I haven't lost in X unbelievable amount of time. The game began with 3,500 chips for each man. So that is 7,000 points and chips total, I believe. This case is actually, I think, the hardest first case and most complex and interesting first case in any Ace Attorney game. And it's actually very well paced. Like, you jump straight into the action. Like, part 1 is not just all dialogue. Like, I actually got to do cross-examination to hopefully get y'all interested. And hopefully people come back for part 2, 3, and 4, because this will probably be 4 parts. House chips come in 2 sizes, small and large. The one who was winning? Da, it was the victim. Body language. So, this is an expression of someone who's unsure. Which makes me question whether or not the victim was actually losing or not. For last hand, the defendant play with all chips on table and lose. But what's interesting, though, about this testimony is that in this one, she's using a more clean composure, and these games are really well polished. And this is a weird animation, too. She's probably just feeling the pain from... Right, I guess. When he hit the victim, but... I don't know. This statement is suspicious to me. I'm going to press it. She doesn't seem sure. You're telling me that Mr. Wright, undefeated for 7 whole years, was losing? Da. It must have been most unlucky day for him. She still doesn't seem sure. But is always ready to take a nice picture. I'm glad I did not take other picture of him. It would break camera, certainly. Wright would break the camera. The chips, they went always to the victim's side of the table. See, here, again, she's like, she's sure of this. So, that's what I love about this mystery, right? She seems very sure about this. The chips, they always went to the victim's side of the table. So you're telling us it was a one-sided game. Da, one-sided end. Well, I'm pretty sure at this point, goodbye Mr. A, that she is lying about the actual fact that Wright was losing, so... Yeah. Because the real question is... And this is one that stumped me when I bought the game initially. But... It's slowly coming back to me. I'm vaguely remembering this case, because her body language indicates she wasn't sure, really, if the victim was winning or not. Thank you, Jacob Reed, for following. I appreciate all the new followers. Her body language indicates she wasn't clear who's winning, and this makes me want to look at this photo, and it makes me question... Because she She doesn't specify in her testimony, notably, which chips are worth what, so... I'm gonna see if I can squeeze that out of her. Hold it! Are the chips in this photo all the chips that were used? Of course! Something's fishy with these chips. Hey! Should I press harder? Absolutely. Sometimes you get penalized for doing this. However, I think we're onto something here. Maybe you could explain a bit more about these chips. These fishy chips. Hey, Drakey, good to see ya. Always a pleasure to have you. Explain? What is there to be explained? Objection! I love the hair flip. Alright. Next time I go to Fanime, I'm going as Winston Payne. I've decided it. If anyone can recognize Winston Payne, but I hope they can. Just gotta master the hair flip. His objection is, poker chips are poker chips. They're not fish and chips. Just skip through that one for me. Alright. Poker chips are just poker chips. They're not fish and chips. Now that I've pressed her, I better ask something. What are these chips worth? Are they in dollars or rubles even? Yet, as I've been saying before, it was a game, not gambling. Hard perhaps for capitalists to understand. 2 types of chip. 100-point chip and 1,000 points chip. It is not money, da? Justice. Sir, don't you find her comment interesting? I do, Kristoph. This is why it's nice to have a competent lawyer as an assistant in the first case for everything. I like that they do that in all the games. In more ways than one, sir. I'd have it added to her testimony myself. Well, does the defense want the witness to add to her testimony? Of course! Yes, I do think this deserves further scrutiny. Add it to the testimony. Just wish I knew where I was going with this. Very well, witness, if you would be so kind. Your Honor. One kind of chip is worth 100 points, other kind is worth 1,000. 2 kinds in all. Look at this chip photo again. Okay, so... this is Shaddy Smith's side. He has more chips. Indicates he's winning. Appears that both sides have a full house? Okay. But... the game began with 3,500 points and chips for each man. See, there's no way to determine based off the quantity of chips who is winning or not. But what we could do is do some math and add this up. If the little chips really were worth only 100 points, this would be 400, 600, and then we have the big ones being worth 1,000. So let's see, 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, 5,000, 6,000, 7,000, 8,000, 9,000, 10,000. 10,600. I think we found a contradiction. Did anybody get this? Check chat, please. So we're gonna ask, who's Kristoph? Kristoph is our boss and mentor. I can't show you that right now, but he is a very renowned defense attorney, known for his, integrity, good record, and as a mentor to The main character in this game, Apollo Justice. That's Kristoph Gavin. What did I miss in chat? Now, I want you all to solve it with me, but you don't need to shout it at me, so please no caps. Don't worry. I'm reading the chat, so... Yes. But yes, clearly, we have uncovered a contradiction. So... Objection! You're sure it was the victim who won? Absolutely sure? Objection! It seems our new attorney is a bit confused. A glance at this picture is enough to tell you who won. If you're not in kindergarten... Oh, you tell him, Payne. That's why they call him Max Payne. Just for safety's sake, could you explain the problem to the court? Of course, Your Honor. I love this little thinking animation. In this photo, I see small chips and I see large chips, not fish and chips. Tell me, which were worth 1,000 points? Why, the big ones, of course. Duh. Oh, I thought so too, but then the totals don't add up. The totals? Mm-hmm. Let's review what the witness told us. Each man started with 3,500 points in chips. And the combined total value of the chips was 7,000 points. Yes, if my calculations are correct, let's see, 3 plus 1, carry the 5. They are, Your Honor. Now, look at the photo that allegedly shows all the chips. If the big chips are worth 1,000 points, and the small chips are worth 100, and you add them up, how much is it? Do for yourself. You aren't in kindergarten, are you? Sick burn, Apollo! You get him back! That's why he's called Winston Payne. So he's taking the pain. 10,600 points. The chips don't add up. Desk slam. This clearly contradicts the witness's testimony. And I love this music too. Every single Ace Attorney game has a sick soundtrack. Dun, 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 dun. Ah, I love it when they cut to those scenes. But why? How could this be? Exactly, Justice. Now that you know the what, you must determine the why. Kristoph is basically walking us through how to win a case. I excess fish and chips, you said. Right, there's only one possible way to explain this contradiction. Were the starting points wrong? Chip count was wrong. No, I don't think it's that I think it's that they were both right, because it's not that the starting points were wrong or the chip count was wrong, but rather it was that the values were the other way around. Like, if you add up the smaller chips that were worth 1,000 points each and the big ones worth 100 each, then you'll actually get 7,000, so I think both were right. Each man began the game with 3,500 points. If all the chips are indeed shown in this photograph, then there can only be one answer. Well, what is it? The value of the chips was the other way around. What? Want to know what I think? The small chips worth 1,000 points, not the big ones. Madness, utter madness. Show me the photograph of that chips again. There are 6 small chips and 10 large chips. Why, that does make 7,000 points when you add them up. Excellent work, Justice. It's almost as though you figured it out by yourself. Well, I'm just glad I was the one who said it. Objection! But wait! The value of the chips may be different, but it changes nothing! Indeed, the victim did have a larger number of chips still. Exactly. If the small chips are 1,000 points and the large chips are 100, let's do a little math. Add up the points for each side of the table. The victim, Mr. Smith, had 2,900 points, and Mr. Wright had 4,100 points. Well now, it seems that Mr. Wright was winning that night after all. That's impossible! My client had even less reason to kill the victim. After all, he was winning. Now, Miss Orly, you must have known the true value of the chips, since you were there at the scene of the crime, weren't you? Oh, this is getting epic! Boom! Yep, you're correct. Absolutely corrected by Mr. A. Good eyes, everybody. You're all playing along real well, and no one's spoiling anything. This is great. Rez got him, says McKay. Eek! I do that too whenever someone surprises me. I don't have the dexterity, I'm kidding. Order! Order! It appears our defendant has lost his motive, and Mr. Wright's supposed defeat never happened. Now we must ask ourselves whether we can trust the— Hold it! Excuse me? Oh shit, that was her voice. This happens in every Phoenix Wright Let's Play. I'll try again. Hold it! Excuse me, what is it, Miss Orly? I did not want to be saying this, but actually, you see, see what, Miss Orly? What do we see? In the last hand, there was cheat. A cheat? You don't mean a trick? Wait, or do you mean a scam? They're all the same thing. Yes, there was cheat in last hand. That is why game ends with chips as they are. Great, just great. First we have lying, now cheating. Well, this case has certainly taken a turn for the interesting. Witness, you will please testify to the court. Tell us about this cheating in the final hand. The last hand. Both men had full house. There is 4 of each card in deck, from ace to king. If you look at both men's hand, cheat is more obvious. The next moment, game becomes argument. The defendant's trick was exposed. He took bottle in his hand. Poor Mr. Smith. Miss Orly! Why did you not tell the court about this from the very beginning? I thought I smelled a cover up here. Well, folks, it's time to throw back the covers. And I'm wondering if this, on this note, is a good time to end off part 2. Wow, this might have to be a couple parts. Okay, so, yeah. I think this is based off my timestamps, a great time to end off part 2. So this might actually end up being 5 parts, but I will finish this today. Stay tuned. I will finish this as long as I have the voice to do so, as Apollo isn't the only one who has a sore throat. All right, so we'll be right back. It's time to throw back the covers. A full house is a very high-scoring hand. Not easy to make in my experience. That alone is enough to suspect less than scrumptious tactics. And so, I'll be right back with part 3 of my Apollo Justice Let's Play. Please let me know if you've been enjoying it so far, and I will be back very, very shortly with part 3.